everybody, it's Alex here, and we're taking a look at the HTC One M8 versus the LG G2. I figured I'd do a comparison of a phone I actually own, which is the LG G2. It's on my personal T-Mobile account. These are both actually T-Mobile phones, so the network isn't really going to be in this review at all because obviously it's the same network. But I figured I'd go through, do a comparison between the two because these are two flagship devices right now, at least until the S5 comes out, which by the time this video posts, it'll probably be out already because it's due to come out tomorrow. Filming this on April 10th, so let's get started with the specs. So on the HTC One, we're looking at a 5-inch 1080p Super LCD 3 display. It's 1920 by 1080. We're looking at on-screen buttons down here. We've got a 5 megapixel camera up top, along with your front-facing speakers here at the top and bottom. Let's move G2 out the way real quick. Up top, we've got the IR blaster, which is underneath the power button there. Then over here on the right side, we've got a microSD card slot along with a volume rocker there. Down here on the bottom, we got our micro USB port along with our 3.5mm headphone jack. And on the left side, we've got our nano SIM card slot right there. On the back, we've got our 4 megapixel UltraPixel camera along with our 2 megapixel secondary camera. This is part of the dual camera module that they're using. The 2 megapixel camera up there is basically for depth information and stuff that you can do with the camera app. Then we've got our dual LED flash right here. HTC logo, FCC stuff. So that's the HTC One. As far as processor and stuff like that goes, we're looking at a Snapdragon 801, which is clocked at 2.5 gigahertz. We're also looking at 2 gigs of RAM. So it's pretty much a pretty beastly device here. Then we look over here at the G2, which is about 6 months old now, but it still has some pretty good specs. Right here we're looking at a 5.2-inch 1080p IPS display, 1920 by 1080. We're also looking at on-screen buttons down here, LG logo there. 2 megapixel camera up here at the top, along with our normal sensors. There's no front-facing speakers on this one. So there's nothing on the left, on the right, or nothing on the right side. Sorry about that. On the left side, we've got our micro SIM card slot right here. Up top, we just have a microphone hole, and down the bottom, we got our speaker along with our 3.5mm headphone jack and our micro USB port. On the back, we've got our volume rocker and power button, along with our camera and flash, another LG logo, and a T-Mobile logo, which is something you didn't see on the HTC One. There's no T-Mobile branding at all, except for on the boot animation and the bloatware that's on the phone. So internally, we have a Snapdragon 800, which is powered at clocked at 2.3 gigahertz. The 801 is a slight bump over the 800, but it's basically the same thing. 2 gigs of RAM. So as far as specs go, we've got it's pretty much even until we get to the camera, but we're not going to talk about that just yet. So right here from the home screen, obviously I have Nova Launcher here, which I'm going to change that in real quick. Home screen, and let's change that to regular home. So here we go. Let's get rid of a few things. So with the LG G2, you'll notice a more of a, I guess you'd say a natural looking display on it. The HTC One has a really nice display as well. It looks like everything's just floating on top of the glass, like right under your finger. It looks really nice. Both of these displays look really nice, especially outside. The real differences here is like in the software. So here you can tell the difference between the notification drawer. Here on the LG G2, you got all these toggles up here, which isn't too bad. But you also got your volume and brightness sliders here. Then you can open up QSlide, and you got all that stuff there. So it's kind of a busy app or notification drawer, at least in my opinion. Over here on the HTC One, it's basically bone stock, just like on an Nexus 5. Other than, I mean, it's a different pattern in the background. So now you can get the quick settings by tapping that little icon over there in the corner on the HTC One. There's no quick settings panel on the G2 because they're all right up here in the top. So there you can see all this stuff there. We're going to jump into settings real quick. And so on the G2 you can see that there are 4, let's turn this up a little bit more. there are 4 tabs here for different settings. So under networks, you got, airplane mode, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, mobile data, call, sharing, connect, tethering networks. Then under sign, you got, basically all the sound stuff. Displays, pretty much, kind of self-explanatory, all the display stuff. Font type, font size, screen, smart screen, smart video, the notification LED, screen timeout, lock screen, home screen, the front touch buttons, which you can actually change on here. You can also change the color. You can't do that on the HTC One. Then under general is basically everything else. So let's jump into storage real quick on both of these. And there it is. So these are both 32GB versions. Now the G2 comes with 24 out of the box, and the HTC One is about the same. It doesn't really show it. It shows I have 22.4 available, but I've also been using it, as my daily driver. So I've got about 2 gigs of apps on there, just like I do on the G2. But as far as bloatware goes, neither one is really that bad, especially if you compare it to like the S4 or the S5. S5 I haven't got my hands on yet, but the S4 is pretty bad. So over here on the HTC One, as far as settings go, you got wireless and networks up there. Then you got personal. So you got personalized to change the theme and stuff. Constant sync, location, security, accessibility, backup and reset. Then down here you got phone, which gives you your display and gestures, sound, calls, app, storage, power, all that good stuff. And then you got about down here, which we're going to jump into over here, and software. So as you can see, these are both running Android 4.4.2. Now the HTC One is running Sense 6, while the G2 is running, I believe they still call it the Optimus UI. I'm not sure what version it is though, but it's basically the latest version. So we're looking at 2 KitKat devices here. Now you'll see, I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but you'll see that the HTC One is a bit taller, and that's because of the speakers. The screen on the G2 is bigger. Of course, you got the smaller bezels, obviously, but with the black bar down here, along with the front-facing speakers, that makes the HTC One a lot taller. Now, as far as customization goes, you can pinch to zoom to get to both of them. You can add home screens. Up to 7 on the G2. It's actually 6 on the One because of blink feed over here. You can also set one as default. As far as the LG launcher goes, you can move stuff around. It's actually really flexible. So you can move like the app drawer around to the middle, move it to the edge, all kinds of stuff like that. As far as the launcher on the HTC One, it's pretty fast, but you can't like move the launcher someplace else or anything like that. But you can make folders and typical stuff like that. Let's jump over to blink feed, which the G2 doesn't have, so I'll move that out the way real quick. So over here on blink feed, you can swipe over and get the highlights. It'll pull in information from different sites that you read. Of course, you want to read Android headlines. It also can do your social feeds like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Google+. Right here, I've got a whole category for technology and science, which they have a bunch of different sites in here, which is nice to have. You can also add stuff pretty easily, so we'll do, let's just do CNN. So it's searching for stuff now. So you see we got tweets, we got stuff from Engadget, stuff from the Associated Press, The Independent, Gawker, Deadline, all kinds of stuff like that. And you can just add it to your list real easily. And you should see it over here for custom topics. So it's really easy to add stuff into it. I wanted to jump into personalize real quick too, because it's something else that the G2 doesn't really have. If you want a theme, as you can see right now, the accents are green, which you can change that with the theme. Let's do this one. That one will be purple. So as you can see right here in the blink feed, it'll be purple now, which I'm not sure I like purple. I think I like the green better, but I do wish you could change the accents and stuff on your own instead of just having either black, orange, purple, or green. Wish you could do like blue, since I really like blue, or even red. Now if you jump into the app drawer, she'll do that on both of these. So if you jump into the app drawer, here on the HTC One, it scrolls vertical, while the G2 does horizontal, and it does continuous scrolling as well. You can change the HTC One so the grid size is 3x4 or 5x2, or not 5x2, 4x5. So what happens when you try to multitask. Now you can do show large icons, which will change it to 4x5 instead of the 5x5, which I like the 5x5 better. It seems like it uses up a little bit more of the screen real estate. Of course, I do use Nova, so I don't really use this every day. But here in the HTC One, you can also view it as custom, alphabetical, or most recent. Obviously, custom is, you can move apps around to however you want them to be. Here you can view apps by alphabetical, download date, and then user customized. I usually keep it to alphabetical because it's easier for me to find stuff, especially quickly. So those are the app drawers. We're going to jump into the camera now, which I know is a pretty hot debate, especially with the HTC One. So let's pull in my keyboard and we'll take a picture of that. So I'm going to try and take these at the same time, but it may or may not work. I've got the max resolution on both of them, so this one is 4x3 because it's 13 megapixels, and this one is 16x9 using all 4 of its UltraPixels. So here we go. So as you can see, it was almost instantaneous for both of them. I think the G2 may have gotten it by half a second. We'll take a look at the pictures here. So the G2's looks a little bit darker, but that's because of the shadow from the HTC One being on the other side. So the HTC One's picture actually looks pretty good. As you can see from there, it looks pretty good. I mean, on camera, or on the phone at least. When you get to the desktop, you'll really notice the difference because it is a 4 megapixel camera, so the resolution is not really there. Let's take another one with just the G2, see if we can get it a little bit better. It seems like in Google Plus Photos, it likes to act weird. So let's go into Gallery. So here we have the picture I just took on the G2. I mean, it doesn't have as much light as the HTC One, but it still has plenty of light in there. So we're going to jump back into the camera, and we're going to check out the interface on both of them. So move this out the way real quick. So here we've got the shutter button in the middle on both of them. And then we've got the modes here. So you can switch from camera to video right here on the right side on the G2. Then on the left side on the HTC One, you can jump into camera, video, Zoe camera, the Pan 360, dual capture, or selfie. So you can choose all of those. And then settings, there's just a regular settings, just a regular like settings icon. That's the word I'm looking for on the G2. While the HTC One has the 3-dot settings where you can get to everything. White balance, ISO, brightness, all that type of stuff. Then you can jump into the rest of them over here. So on the G2 you also have modes. You have different modes, like the HTC One has Zoe and stuff like that. On the G2 you've got normal, shot and clear, dynamic tone, which is HDR, panorama, VR panorama, which is basically photosphere, burst shot, portrait plus, dual camera, time catch, intelligent auto, sports, and then night. I usually keep it on intelligent auto because I just want to pull out my phone and take a picture quickly. I don't want to have to worry about changing the settings and all that stuff. So you can touch the focus on both of them, obviously. Now we're gonna jump back into the gallery apps, which this one I'm gonna have to jump back in manually. Okay, so on the G2, you can edit it, but not in the actual camera app. You have to jump into like Snapseed or something. or I guess you can do it in Photo Studio. I really don't edit my pictures, I just take them and go. So you can do the autofix, you can change the artistic effect. You can also change the color. So it's not all that interesting, I'd say, especially when you compare it to the HTC One. But that's editing on the G2. Now over on the HTC One, you can do all these different kinds of effects. Some of them may not work on this particular picture, so we're going to jump back out and just pick this one. So on here on effects, you can choose a foregrounder, which you got 4 different effects for the background. So you can do penciled in for the background, as well as zoom blur, and then you got a cartoon and colorize, which you can choose the focus point. You can change that. You can also change the focus point without doing any of that. But as you can see, it's artificial, so well, sometimes you can see the jagged edge, but you can't really right now. Like there, you can see the jagged edge up there at the top. So it's not perfect since it is artificial. Then you got 3D Dimension Plus, which uses the gyroscope, and it's pretty cool. You also have seasons, so you can pick all these different seasons here, and it'll make like a small YouTube video. I think it's like 7, 8, 9 seconds. It's real small. And you got your filters, which we all love since we all are on Instagram. You can also create your own filter by, changing all these different settings here. So then you get your frames, nothing much to say about the frames. Then you got tools, straighten, flip, crop, rotate, and draw. So that's the gallery app on the HTC One. And we'll bring the G2 back in over here. So you've seen me double tap on the G2 in this video since it turned off. So that's another feature that the HTC One and the G2 actually have. Now on the HTC One, you can't double tap on the home screen to turn it off, but you can on the G2. And the main reason for them doing that is because of the volume buttons and the power button on the back. You can also double tap to turn it back on, which you can do on the HTC One as well. It doesn't always work when it's sitting on the desk. Sometimes you have to pick it up and do it. So there's that. But HTC is actually innovated, I would guess would be the word, for motion launcher on here, which is the double tap to turn it on. So basically you can swipe in. I actually have to pick it up and do that. So you can swipe into to the left and you jump into your home screen. And you can swipe into the right and it'll go into blink feed. Now you can swipe up and it'll jump into the last app you're in. So let's go into Chrome. And we'll do that again. So now it will just jump into that last app you're in. Now if you swipe down, you can do voice dialing, which it doesn't really work that much. But those are the motion launcher features or gestures that the HTC One has. The G2, it's basically just double tap and then swipe to unlock. That's really all it is for it. On the G Pro 2, they have some more features and not code, but we don't have that update yet on the G2. It's going to be coming to it probably, I'd say after the G Pro 2 is probably released worldwide, which is only in Korea right now. Hopefully that comes pretty soon. But that's the comparison between the HTC One and the LG G2.